Hello, and thanks for joining us for another Five Things podcast. I'm Brian Smith, your host, here with a very special guest, Cub Swanson, UFC Hall of Famer. Thank you for joining me, Cub.
Oh, no problem. I'm excited to be here.
And you're in town, and I'm here at the new location here in Las Vegas, but you're in town. You got a fighter on the Contender Series tomorrow. And so thank you for squeezing me in your very busy schedule.
Yeah, is any chance to get away, I like being around the guys, but sometimes, the weight cuts and all that stuff, I've done enough.
Yeah, it's
sometimes
tough, I'm
sure. It gets old, yeah. So
yeah.
I gotta have a little fun in between.
Mm-hmm. And for the 8 people in the world that don't know who Cub Swanson is, I want to read your resume here. 41 years old, 42 in November, UFC Hall of Famer, and honestly, you fought an absolute who's who of opponents. 30-14 MMA record, and I read this. I didn't even know this. You have the record for the most fight bonus awards in the featherweight division, 11. That's pretty awesome.
Well, it's actually more than that. But
is it more than that? Okay.
Because they won't count my WEC.
Oh, WEC.
Ones,
then it was like up to 15, right?
I had 4 more, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
And that's awesome. So, and then having got to know you a little bit over the last few months, you own gyms. You're basically a real estate investor. You may not think of it that way, but you got rental property and you're making moves, business guy at this point. The co-founder of Bloodline Sports Agency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And currently live in Palm Springs and from California originally.
Yeah, I live in Orange County now, but originally from Palm Springs, and I'm still out there all the time.
Okay. And last and probably most important thing, you're a family. You're a husband to a beautiful wife, Kendra, and 3 amazing, super cute kids. I'm guessing future badasses, if I had to take a guess.
Hopefully, nerds. You just want. I'll support them in their dreams if they ever wanted to become fighters, but there's easier ways to make a living.
Yeah, I hear that. And we met through O'Day Osborne, and obviously Triumph Cigars. I'm the co-founder of Triumph Cigars. We're launching the Killer Cub and Bloodline cigar, which I'm super pumped about.
I'm excited about it as well.
And we're taking the time to make a great product, so want to make sure everybody's proud of that. But just jumping right into the podcast, I've heard you say before, and I do want to get into your background a little bit and kind of what led you up to this point. But I heard you say in some of my stuff that I was researching that you felt like MMA saved your life.
Mm-hmm.
And and we talked about this on the way here, so it's not as fresh as it could have been. But at the end of the day, like, I actually relate to your story. The more I saw about it, like, my mom, I love her. She was awesome. Like, she would have went through walls for me. And this is certainly not a shot at her, God rest her soul. But at the end of the day, like, she had a drinking issue. And so I grew up with that. And there's definitely things that I'm aware of that are kind of triggers for me, to be honest, around alcohol. But I didn't really have a dad growing up. And from what I understand, you lost your father at a super early age as well.
Yeah, I was 3 months old.
Yeah. So with that background, you lived with your mother for a short period of time, if I remember correctly, and then you went to live with, was it your dad's cousin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so my dad's cousin and his wife, they had just gotten married. They were trying to help out, and me and my brothers, I have 2 older brothers, and we were looking at getting adopted, but they were going to split us up. And so they didn't want that to happen, so they took us in for a short time, and that ended up being 10 years. And so they took me in at 3, and then I ended up living with them till I was 13. And then they eventually got a divorce. And then I moved back with my mom, my birth mother, when I was 13.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's when I started getting into a little bit of trouble.
Being a little bit of a hellion.
Yeah, rebellious. It's a crazy age.
Yeah.
You're developing. I really probably should have stuck around my stepdad, needing a father figure at the time. But yeah, so I just kind of ran wild, and everything that I had been taught up until then, I was wanting to do the opposite, rebellious. I ended up in juvenile hall, and so yeah, things got a little tough for me, but I dug out of it.
Yeah, some good life lessons. Are you still? Do you still keep in contact with your dad's cousin?
Yeah.
Okay.
I still have a good relationship with him.
Was he glad to see you come out of the other side of all that stuff?
Yeah. Well, he had a hard time too. After they got a divorce as well, so we we had our issues, but
Yeah.
it's all good now.
Well, life is tough. If it was perfect, it would be boring,
Yeah, 100%.
So, any case, ultimately you get invited to go learn some MMA with a friend. I think it was jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, well, so I played soccer my whole life, and I was doing that, and I thought that that's what I was going to do. But in high school, when I stopped going to class and hanging out with the wrong people, I kept messing up my opportunities. And so I didn't have the grades to play. And then I ended up going to juvenile hall. And then when I got out, I didn't have any offers to play anywhere. And so I joined my local community college in Palm Springs, College of the Desert, and I played, junior college soccer. I was 17 at the time. And I played for 1 year, but once again, my grades weren't that great. I didn't really care about school. It's not that it was hard. I just didn't care to do it.
Sure.
And I had to, at that time, I was living on my own, well, with my brothers actually. But I was paying rent, had a job, trying to do homework and play soccer. And
Sure.
I couldn't do it all. So me and my brothers, we were just partying and barely getting by. And then my friends invited me to a jiu-jitsu class, and I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I need something. I need something to occupy my time, because I'm just drinking every night and partying and doing the same thing over and over. And when I went to that jiu-jitsu class, it was supposed to be a group of like 10 of us, and nobody went because everyone started drinking earlier in the day. So I went, and I fell in love with it. And then from that day on, I stopped doing drugs. I stopped drinking, and I everything I had was just on jiu-jitsu. And then that led me into MMA.
What do you think captivated your attention right there? What, you just think it was you found something you really loved right out of the gate, the competition, or?
Yeah, I thought that it was going to be something like Taekwondo or karate. I had no idea what jiu-jitsu was. And so my knowledge of martial arts was a lot of nerds are doing martial arts. And nobody really tough. I was like, okay, maybe a couple black belts will be able to beat me up. But I think I'm too athletically gifted to get beat up by a lower belt nerdy person in my mind. So when a blue belt, which is the second belt, nerdy kid tooled me on the ground,
Wrapping you up.
I didn't even know you could fight on the ground. I didn't know that was a thing. And so, yeah, I was like, this is crazy. I can't believe I've never heard of this. I've never seen it. I'd never seen the UFC, never heard of the UFC. So yeah, it was kind of crazy. And then once that happened, it had my attention, and I was like, I have to get good at this. This is like an opportunity for me to get good at something before other people find out about it. That kind of was my mentality.
Right. And how old were you at this point?
I was 19.
So you're this right around early 2000s then.
Yeah, it was 2003.
It's interesting. You said something that, again, I can relate to. It's like, I actually did pretty good in school, but I never applied myself. I never did homework. I never studied. I just did pretty good at it. But I just did good enough to A's and B's, but I didn't really work hard at it. And what's funny is, it sounds like you had the same mindset, but I didn't feel interested in it. And what's funny is, I know you're a hard worker. You wouldn't be at this level if you didn't understand hard work. And it sounded like when you found jiu-jitsu, you dialed in and you start working hard.
Yeah.
It's because you were interested in something.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's an interesting point that, just to make it for anybody listening, if you're not working hard at something and you don't have the passion for it, maybe you're not in the right place. You're just not something that you have a natural interest in. Yeah. And like building the cigar business, I would do this for free, because get to hang out with people like you and talk to people like you and stuff. But I just think if you're not really working hard at something, maybe that's not your calling.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that, because when I was in school, I enjoyed learning. I liked the challenge. My problem was when they were like okay, go home, read this book, do a 5-page report, and bring it back, I would automatically be like, I'm not doing
Not
that.
doing it.
It's like, I'm here all day. I'll work hard while I'm here, but when I go home, I'm not thinking about school.
Right.
That just didn't make sense to me.
I remember having a teacher named Mrs. Ball, and she was getting on me about something, and she was teaching Beowulf. And I literally remember telling her, like, I'm never going to know this. I'm never going to need this stuff. Like, I was probably too much of a smartass for my own good. Mm-hmm. But instinctually, I knew, like, this, I'm not going to apply myself. This is pointless for me. Mm-hmm. So kind of sounds like similar stuff. It's like maybe we're too critical thinking for our own good in some capacity, you know?
Yeah.
But let me ask you this on a personal level. Have you ever, obviously not really having a traditional dad growing up, kind of like me, have you experienced some things being a dad? Have you experienced challenges because you didn't really have that modeled? So you're kind of figuring things out as you go.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and the thing is, my stepdad, I always called him my Uncle Tim, he was awesome. He showed up to our soccer games, me and my brothers, and cheered us on, and he tried to like teach us how to eat good, and he did a great job. He was a carpenter, and those are trade skills that I would have loved to have learned, but things started going bad right around the age where I would have and could have used that kind of knowledge. You know, 12, 13 is when the boy starts becoming a man.
Yeah, hormones
and
kicking in.
That's when I didn't have anybody in those ages, and that's really when I needed it. So I did have a really good childhood, but in those crucial years, that's when it really, you know, was hard. And then really me having kids, what was crazy for me, and me and my wife talked about this a bunch, but my dad passed away when he was 33 years old, and that's how old I was when I had my first kid. So it was just kind of surreal, thinking like, my dad life ended at this point, and my life is just starting to get you know, warmed up. So that was kind of crazy. And then I lived in the same place, so all growing up, I'd meet people and they'd say, "Oh, this is so and so. They knew your dad," and then they would tell me a story, and it was weird because they're always telling me a story about somebody I didn't know. You know, I know it was my dad, but I didn't remember anything about him. So they were always telling me stories about person that they knew that I didn't. And so it's just kind of a weird thing. So when I started, when I had kids, and I know I'm at the later part of my career, it was very important for me to do this long enough for my kids to have to be able to remember it, so that they didn't have those same feelings that I have.
Sure.
You know, like, yeah, I've heard stories, but I never saw it. You know, I wanted them to go, "Oh yeah, we were there. We remember that." You know, so that was important to me.
That's cool. Well, not to mention so much of it's on TV. I mean, how cool is it to go see your dad fight, and not only fight, but I mean, you've been in some battles, you've been in some wars, you know?
Yeah. I mean, hopefully they'll know more than I was just tough, you know?
Yeah.
I'm excited to be able to give them a lot of life lessons. But yeah, it's just as hard too, being a dad, knowing all those things and having to let them figure it out on their own at the same time. You know, that's the real hard part.
I'll tell you, for any dads out there, this is this applies for boys more so than me. But one of the things I learned, if you don't mind me sharing, is that dealing with boys is that I'm probably too direct with communication. You know, especially my middle son was probably my cub. He went wild for a while in a number of ways, and he's doing great now. But one of the things I used to say is, you know, for example, I'll just say Andy, my middle son, he came to me, "Hey, Dad, I want to go do ABC." I'd be like, "Andy, you don't want to do ABC. You do ABC, XYZ is going to happen. Don't do that." And of course, he goes and does ABC, and XYZ happens, and guess who he's mad at? He's mad at me. Yeah. But that's the ego with dealing with boys, is there's such an ego there. And what I learned over the years, and I probably learned it too late, to be honest, but it was like, I would ask questions. And even now I'll ask questions. So Andy will, hey, I want to do A, B, C. And I'll say, well, have you thought about what if you did that? And what if this happened? Well, I don't really, well, what if you did that? And blah. So I'll ask them questions. And what's funny is I'll ask enough questions for them to kind of see and kind of come up with their conclusion. Now it's their idea, not mine.
Yeah.
And it just goes over so much better.
Yeah.
But that's just, we were talking about egos on the way here and how tough it is speaking for myself. I mean, I've set myself back many times because of ego, or didn't capitalize on egos or opportunities better because of ego. So that was something that I learned to deal with dealing with boys, because those egos are strong, and I'm sure we could both relate to that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think part of that is, you hear the expression "fake it till you make it," which is kind of huge. And as a man, you grow up to learn how to just be like, just get it done. You'll figure it out, And so you kind of thrive in that a lot of times. You figure out a lot of things that way. And so it's very hard for us to admit, no, I can't do this. I do need help.
Right.
So in like many things, when you're trying to be good at something, there's a fine line between doing it the right way and not doing it the right way.
There is. And the older I get, the less I like that saying because of things like this. It's like when I look back, when I did try to, carry myself a certain way, I just don't think it was the right approach 100%.
Yeah.
I think that if you're around people that you need to, quote, fake it with, I think you're actually going to be better received by being humble and saying, hey, Cub, I really appreciate the fact you've had all this success. Would you mind if I asked you a couple questions about, things I'm trying to accomplish in MMA, for example?
Yeah.
And my experience is that somebody like you is probably going to be very receptive to that. Sure, I'll be happy to answer this question for you, and want to give to them.
Yeah.
So they don't have to make those same mistakes.
I would agree with that.
So I'm not saying it's 100% wrong. the more I think about that saying, the more I don't like it. But the first time, part of it was the first time that I met you in LA at a UFC event over there. Part of what I didn't do is I didn't take a lot of pictures with fighters. I wasn't approaching you to take a picture and things because I wanted to look like I belonged there. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of faking it until you make it in a way. But I also think that you want to look like you belong, act like you've been there. Yeah. Kind of thing. So I didn't want to come across as a fanboy, even though I was like a little kid in that environment inside.
But I think that's the right approach in that instance. I say that a lot because I'll bring fighters around to I would bring, so I had a gym in Palm Springs and we were a lower level gym. And, I had a bunch of guys that got like regional belts and stuff. And I would take them out to Jackson's in New Mexico with me. And I would tell them, don't be fanboying. Mm-hmm. John Jones is going to be there, right. And Diego Sanchez and Holly Holm and all these.
Yeah, big,
they're all
huge.
There.
Yeah.
It's like, if you go around asking for everybody for pictures, they're going to look at me like, why'd you bring this, fan in here?
Sure.
If you came in here to work, then just work, and eventually they'll accept you as one of theirs, Mm-hmm. And I always tried to preach that because for me, when people tell me they're a huge fan of me right off the bat, then I put them in that category. Mm. If somebody just comes up and they're super cool and then they tell me later that they're a fan,
right.
They're already over here in this category.
Right.
So it's like, for me, that's huge. You know, if you fan out right away, then I'm constantly like, okay, this person, I got to put them over here for my own sake.
Sure.
It's just, it's a weird thing.
Well, it's true though. I mean, that's my 50-year-old wisdom kicking in there a little bit to where, like when we were walking out, I got to walk out with the fighters and stuff. Mm-hmm. Chael Sonnen's getting ready, coming down the elevator with Alex Prey and stuff, like inside. Yeah. I'm exploding. I'm like, I cannot believe this is happening right now. But on the outside, I'm like, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you,
And I feel like that's the right way.
Yeah.
It's the right way because, I've been there myself. I was telling my guys the other day, I remember I used to be in Big Bear in camp with Joe Stevenson, and I was the lowest man on the totem pole. Mm. And there was all these UFC fighters at the time putting in work, and I was just making it to the WEC. And they used to shove the phone in my in my face all the time, say, hey, take a picture with of me and Joe. And I would be like, okay. And I remember always thinking like one day they're going to ask me they want to take a picture with me, not give me the camera.
Right.
And that was always my assumption, because I just knew I was gonna make it. I was gonna be successful. So that was huge for me, and I try to give my fighters that same mentality. You know.
Sure.
I think that's important for growth.
Yeah, I agree. And shifting gears here, other than an occasional cigar, what do you think gave you such drive to be a badass in the ring? I told you I was going to throw some cigar references in here. So, like, I mean, obviously you've been in some epic wars. Mm-hmm. I know that you've fought with broken orbitals, broken bones, you know. Obviously the Holloway fight, you had some damage early on and you still got through the whole fight against a easy Hall of Famer like Holloway. Where do you think, if you even know, I'm just curious, where do you think that drive comes from? That tenacity, that, you know, that just dog, you know?
It's kind of funny. I mean, for one, I'm stubborn as hell. You know, I'm the baby of my brothers, and they picked on me a lot. You know, because I was the crybaby. You know, and honestly, it's like that's natural, because I was the baby, and my mom in that early stages wasn't really around, and so
you're getting picked on a lot.
Yeah, I got picked on by my siblings, but then also I was looking for nurturing, right? As like an infant that doesn't have their mother around.
Yeah.
I think it's so. I'd say I was more of a mama's boy, you know. And when my brothers used to pick on me, it always stuck with me that I was the soft one. I wasn't tough. And as my life got more difficult and I got into my teen years, I was terrified that was always going to be the case. So I went the complete opposite way, and I wanted to become mentally and physically tougher than anyone. And I, you know, like, and I look back at like branding, you know, like cigarette lighter burns, and like I just
showing how tough you were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And never wanting to be afraid of anybody or anything. That was the driving force to me that's when Killer Cub really started to come
created.
About. It was a necessity for life for me, for survival.
That's interesting.
And then I carried it into the fights.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Who would you say has been one of the most influential people in your life?
Oh, there's been a lot.
And there's probably been a lot. Yeah. I hate to, that's what, let's call it top 10. You know, anybody in the top 10. I don't want someone getting offended they weren't in the top 10, you know?
I say, when it comes to martial arts, easily the top two, what really bums me out is that I always had this time in my head that there would be a time when I would say thank you. And during my Hall of Fame speech, I was like, this is the moment. And I'd say the two most important people had already passed. And that really bummed me out, you know, like thinking about it. But my original jiu-jitsu instructor, Ramon Diaz, he welcomed me in the gym, and he introduced me to jiu-jitsu. He introduced me to MMA, introduced me to the UFC. Just super nice guy. And he was tragically murdered, and it was just awful. And then my manager of 20 years, Kami, he was like father figure to me. And he had a heart attack in 2019, and that was very difficult. But that's pretty much the reason why I have Bloodline, the management company and fight team, because it's what we had started. And I wanted to keep that alive. And yeah, he was like, you know, a father figure, a brother, a best friend, and was there my entire career. He's the only person that had been to every single one of my fights. And then you know, we lost him, and I had to kind of pick it up and keep going.
Yeah. Well, it's the one thing personally for my 40s, the one thing that I didn't really hear, but I definitely experienced in your 40s is that you don't realize this is, to me, it's when life got real. You started really losing people. You started losing friends. I lost my mom. My dad had passed away during my 40s. I didn't know, and till several years later. But it's like, when you get in your 40s, I just think it's a unique time frame to where you start losing friends that are maybe in their 50s or 60s, and people you work with or people you're associated with, and all of a sudden you start it becomes more of a thing.
Yeah.
And it's you're not prepared for it until it happens, and then you just deal with it the best you can. But that's the one thing I'll say about the 40s. The other side of that, the 40s were the best years of my life so far, in a lot of ways as well. But what advice would you give to a 14-year-old Cub?
Stop being an idiot. I don't really have a lot of regrets in my life. I did, a lot of stupid things, but I'm a believer that my path is my path. And I learned a lot of things the hard way. A lot of other things I learned the easy way when I got smarter. But if I really had to give myself advice, I'd just say to keep the faith that you could turn it around. Because I think right around 15, 16 was my darkest time. That was when I was in juvenile hall. And I really didn't see a path for myself. I mean, I was really thinking like, am I going to rob a bank? Am I going to become a drug dealer? Like my expectations were pretty low.
Right.
And before that, I thought I was going to go to the military or do something. And it just the environment that I was in and what became the norm was just so drastic. Because rewind 3 years before that, I was homeschooled and I was in church 3 times a week, and it was a completely different story. And then,
Wow.
And then I was, at house parties where people getting shot and just pretty wild stuff.
Yeah. Have you ever heard that saying, you become the sum total of the 5 people you hang out with the most?
Yeah, and I believe that to be true.
Yeah, I definitely believe that.
Just knowing, when I go talk to kids now, and I like to do that whenever I can, the whole thing about losing friends along the way. If you expect to be up here, you're going to lose pretty much all these friends because they're not going to make it. Because the reality of who's willing to put in the hard work and who's willing to make sacrifices, everyone talks about it, but people don't do it. So that's a reality. You're going to lose friends along the way.
Let me ask you this too, because you just made me think of something. When you're striving to reach new levels, and I think this applies for everything, but some people unconsciously are doing things to hold you back. They may not even know it, and you may not know it, but I think it's one of those things you have to be careful of. Anybody listening here is that sometimes people will say things or do things to maybe make you feel bad that oh man, you're going to the gym again? Come out and hang with the boy. They don't even realize they want your friendship, but they also maybe subconsciously realize that you're moving on to a different place they're not going to.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful, they'll hold you from becoming your best version of yourself.
I think I somehow knew that when I was changing my life. So when I started doing jiu-jitsu, I quit drinking and doing drugs and everything. And I turned into kind of a psycho when it comes to training for pretty much all my 20s. I remember people saying, hey, on Thursday, do you want to go to this sports bar and do this and watch this game or anything? And my blood would boil, and I would be like, I train on Thursdays. What are you talking about?
Right.
Why would you ask me that? I would be offended that you would invite me. When, are you trying to deter
Stop
me
you
from my path? Like I'm on this path and I'm afraid to take 1 foot off because I don't want to go back to how dark that was.
Right.
And so I would literally get offended and get mad at people. And I look back at those days like, wow, people must have thought I was crazy. But I was. I was on a mission to change my own, my life and everything that I had going on. And when people tried to deter me, whether they meant to or not, I got vicious. You know,
you felt it. You
I
let
did
them
not
know.
like it.
Right.
Yeah, because I knew that it was a slippery slope, and how many times I wanted to get out of that life that I was in, and I just kept falling back into it and forgetting, and then waking up and a couple mornings later going, damn, I need to stop doing this. I need to stop. And then you're doing it again and again and again. And then finally you make a break, and you could just, it felt like people were constantly trying to pull me back. And I was just like, no. And so, yeah, I know what that feels like, and I remember it.
It's kind of that old saying, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you hit that point, like, I'm not going back, you know?
Yeah. And then it's crazy that I chose fighting as a way out, because I literally was fighting, you know, and everything that came with it that people don't really know. Like, you know, like next thing you know, fast forward 4 years, you're selling hundreds of tickets to fights, and you got this huge, you know, crowd of people around you, and now you were just trying to do something different and better yourself, but now like you have a whole crew of people rallied around you and supporting you, and now you have pressure that you didn't ask for, and now you have to live up to that. And then, you know, man, there's so many being humiliated on national television or worldwide, and having to bounce back from that, having to rebuild. There's so many lessons that the fight game will teach you.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I love about UFC is, as a business guy or sales guy my whole life, you know, there's all these lessons you learn along the way. And to me, like when I watch MMA and I watch a career like yourself, I can see all those same lessons. It's just so clear, and it's I don't know, it's like enunciated, and it's right here in pictures versus like experience as a business guy.
Yeah.
I think that's why, one of the reasons why I'm so fascinated with MMA, and I'll watch Good Guy, Bad Guy with DC and Chael. I listen to that, you know, I'd watch him bet it. I love all that stuff because it's just seeing the journey, and there's so many takeaways from it. Yeah. And sometimes it reminds me of things that I've been through. It's always a good reminder, like, I don't want to do that again. You know, like I'm seeing ABC going through this, and it's like, damn, that's a good reminder. I need to keep my nose out of that stuff, you know? Yeah.
And we're lucky enough to get all the expert opinion from everybody.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Everybody's got an opinion, right?
In the Walmart parking lot. Appreciate that. that life advice I got from you.
You know, O'Day shows me some of his messages too, all the input and, you know, the takedown defense comments, and, you know, like, thanks, buddy, you know, appreciate that, because my coach didn't have that figured out. But, you know, coming back to, I think life is phases, right? Like early on in life, it was like, for example, being a business guy, how to network, how to make money, how to add value to other humans to where you can be compensated at a good level. That might be phase one, whereas phase two is, you know, how to save and invest and not piss away your money. You know, don't buy a Corvette when you first start making money. You know, stupid stuff like I've done. You know, things like that, to where there's different phases. So coming back to let's talk to 18-year-old Cub. What's one thing you would tell 18-year-old Cub? Now that he's coming out of the bad spot, working towards something positive with his life.
I still didn't have anything figured out at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, man, it took me a while to dig out of the hole that I was in. I mean, I really, you know, I try not to have like a victim mentality, because I'm guilty of that. It's kind of crazy. I feel like me and my brothers unknowingly developed that and learned how to manipulate that. That people were always extra nice to us because they knew the story.
Okay.
So you're able to kind of like see the way people treat you, and you could
capitalize on that a little bit, manipulate.
Yeah. And so it's kind of human nature, and to get away from that, because it only takes you so far. You know, it doesn't, you can get a couple things for free, but you don't learn how to make it yourself, you
Right.
know? And so I think one of the biggest things that changed my life is that when I did go to juvenile hall is the first time I took responsibility for myself. My mom felt she just wanted me to get out of there. She felt terrible, and she wanted to get me a lawyer, and I said no. And she was like mad at me about it. And she said how stubborn I was. And I said, Mom, I got myself into this mess. I'll deal with it. And because of that, I got a year as opposed to getting out. And
But you felt the pain from that decision.
yeah, but I took it like a man, and
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't see how my life choices could affect my siblings, you know, and I didn't want that to like affect them because that's my decisions. So, you know, financially things were tight, so I wasn't gonna have my mom spend money like that. So that was, to me, it was like that was one of the key moments in my life that where I was like I took responsibility and I didn't take the easy way out, and I suffered for it, and then it ended up being a blessing in disguise.
Right. You know, what's funny is when I look at my notes here, when I'm asking little words there, we'll come back to that in a second. One more advice for a 30-year-old Cub. We'll go one more.
Okay.
At this point, you're in the UFC, you're kicking butt, taking names, you're at a totally different level. 11 years ago, it goes by quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, just letting the people around you know you appreciate them, you know, because I definitely never did a good job of giving my coaches and friends and people credit, because after fights, I always just answered the questions, how does it feel? What did you think? And I always took it pretty literally. And I would tell them what was going on. I thought that the fans would want to know what was going on in my head and what led them to that. And really, what's funny is fans don't. The like real hardcore fans want to know, but the average fan, they don't care. They just want to hear you say like, I don't know, bro, I just hit him hard and he fell. You know, they want to hear something like a stupid soundbite, right? But that's not the way I think. So I was always trying to give like thorough answers of what was going on in my brain, which was kind of irrelevant. But I never gave enough credit to the people around me and deflected the win to everybody else. And
Sure.
so, like I said, I wanted to give so much thanks to certain people later in my career, and then that chance never
Opportunity
came.
passed,
because
yeah.
yeah. So that definitely.
So you'd say shine the light on others when, you have the opportunity. It would be a good lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And again, if you want to chime in on anything, I'm just rifling off some questions here because I'm genuinely interested. What advice would you have for someone who's thinking about a career in athletics or MMA? What would you say would be one thing you could say that would be important for them to put at the top of their hit list?
Study. Like, I think back to something that I did that seemed so crazy. When I got into it, I was like, I want to try this. And I only wanted to try it because I had been pushing myself to be way outside the box of the norm for myself. Like, I remember being scared to go on roller coasters when I was a kid, and nobody could convince me to do it, and then later learning like, oh, they're fun, so like stuff like that I missed out on from just being too scared to try it. So when I saw fighting for the first time, I was like, that seems terrifying, but what a victory to like go into a cage on a signed day. Like you sign a contract, you show up, the other guy's training, you fight in front of all these people. That just seemed like such a wild idea to me. And that's why I wanted to do it. And sorry, why did we get into that question?
Oh, the advice for people and getting into athletics or MMA study.
So when I wanted to get into it, I had went to a King of the Cage. I saw UFC. I was like, that's wild. And I saw King of the Cage. It seemed more doable. So I go on the King of the Cage website, because I knew nothing about it. In my hometown, and there was jiu-jitsu, and that was it. And there was boxing, but they weren't connected in any sort of way. You couldn't do one and the other. It was like one or the other. You know, it was
Back then, it was just different.
yeah. When I walked into a boxing gym for the first time, all they said to me is, "Don't kick our fucking bags," and I was like, I'm not going to. Like, that's not why I came here.
Right.
You know, it's
Trying to
just
learn how to box. Yeah.
the stigma.
Yeah.
But so anyways, so what I did is I went on dial-up internet and I started looking up King of the Cage, and I looked at every fighter and I saw where they're from, who they train with, and I just tried to find any information because I had no idea how to get to where they were at.
How to get the information to get to their
there
level.
was nothing for me to know.
Well, what's crazy, it's kind of tough for anybody listening to this in 2025. Like back then, you probably had to order like videotapes and like probably didn't have the money to buy the videotapes.
There was videotapes and there was only a couple. Nothing was out there because nobody wanted to give up their secrets.
Yeah.
And so me doing that early on kind of set the precedent for like my future of studying tape and learning and reaching out.
And taking the initiative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so to me, that was crazy. Like I said, on dial-up internet, it took me so long, like hours, to be able to look at a couple websites because it'd load up.
Yeah.
But anyways, now I study athletes all the time. I watch videos when I go to bed. Where are they now? You know, the 2016 high school 5-star quarterbacks, where did they land? What happened? Who made it? Who didn't? Why? What all these athletes, where their investments are? Because for me, I don't want to end my career broken and broke. You understand that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I've broken a lot of bones.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go get
You've
a
already
job
done that.
as
Yeah.
a plumber.
Right.
You know, I don't want to be broken and broke. So
Right.
to me, luckily, my mentor, my manager, I talked about Kami, he taught me, he was an anesthesiologist. He was a doctor making good money.
Yeah.
And he was like, I can do this till I'm old. You can't do that until you're old.
Right.
So he challenged me. So literally, I bought my first house. I had 6 figures in my bank account, and I was driving around Palm Springs in 120-degree weather with no air conditioning, and my windows didn't work. And I remember the UFC came to film me, and the guy was dying. He was sweating, and he had a camera, and he was like freaking out.
Like, bro.
And I was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm saving.
And then my friends, I didn't want them to know how much money I had because it wasn't their business.
Yeah.
And they were hassling me about fixing my car. And I was like, for what? Like, it might break again. I don't need it.
Yeah.
I'm just getting from here to there. Like it didn't, like I was used to being broke.
Right.
And then I got the opportunity to buy a house, and it was me and my manager went half on the house. And I had he's like, hey, I found a house for us. He was trying to help me out at the time. And he was like, how much do you have? And I want to say I had the exact amount he needed plus $2,500 more. So I wired him my entire
Bankroll.
savings.
Yeah.
And I had $2,500 left. And then we bought the house, and I was like, okay, if I lose a couple fights and I get dropped by the UFC from here, I could work at McDonald's and be fine. Now that I have that was my number one, buy a house.
Sure.
That was like my number one. So like I said, I when I look at athletes that I admire, it's like the Magic Johnson, the Kobe Bryant, the Michael Jordan. It's the people that made money outside of fighting.
Yeah.
And so I try to encourage my fighters to do the same. Think about life outside of sports, and all the mistakes are all there, and all the victories are all there. You just got to watch the stories and pick them apart and say, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to do that.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of Allen Iversons out there that made tons of money. I'm not talking junk about the guy, but he's a good example where you made tons of money and then you were hurting.
Yeah.
After all of that, because I'll tell you what, it's easy to get in a habit of making money and think it's always going to come in and get better.
Yeah.
And the reality is it can go away quick.
Yeah.
And when you're making really good money, I don't know, let's say you're making 70,000 a fight, and you're getting 2-3 fights a year, and then all of a sudden that stops. It may not seem like a lot, but when you're used to making a couple 100,000 a year, and now you got to like try to make it the regular way, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
And so I commend you for that mindset. I mean, I'm real big on telling any of the fighters that I know, like, you need to be capitalizing in your brand now, and that's part of why the whole cigar concept came up. It's like, this is an opportunity to capitalize on your brand now. And long term, I mean, we're still buying Air Jordan stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a big Nike guy anymore, but I love Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And but he built a brand that surpassed his career for sure. So anybody in the UFC has that opportunity. You just got to work it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm one of the only fighters that I know of that has a retirement account that I funded, this whole time.
That's awesome.
I honestly don't know any, unless I think I'd say almost all of them have it from a previous job, right? But from fighting, I have an IRA, that I set up and that I've been funding for a while. And to me, that's important, It's like I'm trying to take care of myself every stage. And so, yeah, I don't think a lot of fighters even have thought about that.
Well, there's a good book I'd love to recommend here if anybody's listening and cares. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't know if you've ever...
Yeah.
It's one of the statements that stuck out for me, and it's poor and middle class people work for money. Wealthy people have their money working for them.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like you implemented that at a young age. So you got that wealthy dad advice and implemented it.
My manager made me read that book early on. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I understood that. Like I said, buying a car. Like my dream since I was a little kid is like have a Lamborghini.
Yeah. And
I could never buy one. I just I couldn't get an oil change on that thing and not be pissed off, right? Like,
well, it's all relevant. You roll in $100 million a year.
Yeah, yeah. Then
you could probably let it go. So we got to get to work on that. We got to sell lots of cigars,
all right,
and then other stuff. Let me ask you this: another MMA specific. Elijah Smith. He's 3-0. He's kind of on a rocket ship up right now. He's a great fighter. What advice would you give to a fighter that's just rocket shipping? Because there's obviously pitfalls that person can run into. And I just say Elijah Smith randomly just because he's a great guy.
I think don't believe your own hype. Don't think you're God's gift. Know that it's the work that got you there, and that's the work that's going to keep you there. Be careful who you let in your circle, because there's a lot of people that just jumping on the bandwagon, and then when you start losing, they disappear. It's all the same story. That's a whole complicated thing too. Is like all your supporters. A lot of times, friends and family, they're there for the ride, and then sometimes they'll guilt you like, I'm always there to support you, but it's not really the case. They do want to support you, but at the same time, they got like FOMO, fear of missing out. Like they want to be a part of what you're doing.
They want to be a part of the Cub Swanson thing.
Yeah, and so that kind of hurts. Can kind of hurt at a point, and they don't realize it, and they think that they're being like a good friend, and you know what I mean. But I don't think that's necessarily true, and sometimes being successful and being a fighter could be very lonely, in the sense of people always think they know what you're thinking about and what's going on in your head and what it's like, but they don't have any idea. And I feel like the only people that I really can connect with when I'm close to a fight are my training partners. Like to me, if you haven't bled and sweat next to me, then you don't know what I'm going through, and I don't want you around in those crazy moments. I need my brothers with me, That
makes sense.
It reminds me of like the military, like
You're in the foxhole with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're taking bullets in here together,
So that is what I have to talk to fighters a lot about like what they're the things that they're going to encounter that they don't realize is coming.
So even it sounds to me like even some people that maybe are well intentioned, they're not going to quite be able to be there for you in a way that a fellow fighter would be able to be there for you.
Yeah.
Even if they wanted to be.
Yeah, and then just like little things that people ask for that don't seem like a big deal to them, but can be to you, and they don't realize that it's something small, but it's a big deal. You know,
Is it like just pulling at you, just people just pulling at you, asking you for stuff?
Oh, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
You know,
But you might have been the fifth person that asked me today for a little thing, and it's like all these people just pulling at you all the time, taking your energy.
Yeah, taking, and never doing anything in return.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
You can only make so many people happy. You know, so it's just at some point you just got to let that go.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we talked about a fighter on a rocket ship. What about a fighter that's on a 4-fight losing skid? Like I know you've been on a losing skid before, and that's probably incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind me bringing it up, but it's probably you've been there and done that, and you've obviously bounced back from it too.
Yeah, I got a bunch of guys that I've really helped out in that sense because I've been there.
Now, granted, you're fighting some of the who's who on the planet.
Yeah, and so that's the biggest thing is, okay, if you're in the UFC and you're a top fighter and you've lost a couple fights, so what? You know, yeah, it puts a little bit more pressure on you, but your confidence is gone. That's the big thing. The biggest thing I try to tell the guys is like, look, you're looking up and there's only like 6 people above you. And you're mad because you're not reaching the top. Right. And that's your perspective. So I always tell them to take a step back, come back in the gym, stop worrying about taking another fight, just be in the gym, share your knowledge. And what happens is they lose their passion because they're frustrated and it hurts. And then they forget how good they are. So to bring them back in the gym and make them stop thinking about fighting and thinking about martial arts and giving back, they'll help out like a young kid and give them some guidance, and then they're like, remember, like,
get charged up.
I am pretty good, because the person below them is in awe of everything that they're showing them, and it reminds them like, oh yeah, I forgot about the millions of people below me on this pecking order,
Right.
because I'm so focused about the 6 people that are ahead of me. It's kind of ridiculous when you think about it like that, but that's most fighters. And so to get them to kind of like take a step back, get that fire back, and then we just got to get one win. Just focus on one win, and get that one win.
Get your momentum back.
Get your momentum, and then rebuild. And in the rebuilding, sometimes you lose, and it's just a minor error, and the conditioning is off, or the strength wasn't there. There's little tweaks. Sometimes you get your ass kicked, and somebody shows a new game plan how to beat you. And that's like a complete rebuild. And that's a whole nother thing. You got to kind of reevaluate your coaches, your training, and you got to kind of throw that last version of yourself away, and you got to rebuild the car, you know?
Retool, yeah.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago, car. That's not going to cut it. They're faster now. You got to do some tweaks. You got to redo your game. And that's the hard part. That's the one that really breaks people, and to me it's kind of crazy having a long career, because I've seen so many next big things come and go in my career. Like, oh, this guy's the next
that wasn't,
and then they 13-0, then they lose 2, and then they retired, and I'm like, he's 26, you know, like, retire, and they just can't get it back together.
They just didn't want to evolve.
Yeah, and they're just so stuck in that. Of like, now I'm a failure, instead of, no, that version of me failed, but this new version will win. You know,
to kind of piggyback on something you said, Tony Robbins is real big on if people that are depressed. You know, he said, if you're depressed, you're thinking about yourself. It's that simple.
Yeah.
You know, so when you start putting your attention on other people and giving to other people, you're not thinking about yourself, so you can't be depressed. It's impossible.
Yeah.
You know, when you start just giving to other people and helping other people out, and that inevitably kind of helps charge you back up.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of the same process you just pointed out.
Yeah.
I heard that when you say when you're teaching MMA, you try to teach things that translate to life outside of the octagon, and I think that's awesome. And I mean, what a great thing for a coach to be thinking ahead for his fighters.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you like to talk about with those guys? Obviously, personal responsibility. We've already talked about that. That's a massive one for me.
I think one of the biggest ones is championship mentality I talk about. And it's, you know, the stress of fighting, it can, you know, really hurt people, make or break them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then they keep throwing at these things. It's like you're so focused on every day of training, and then now you got to skip 2 days of training because you got to do these medicals. And then you're like, I don't want to do those because I need to train. And you're so obsessed because we're told that the guy that we're fighting is training harder than you. And as you got this crazy, like spin, like I have to be perfect, you know, so that we put all this pressure on ourselves. So it becomes difficult to think logically, you know? And so what I try to do is I try to tell the guys, like, look, as you get bigger and bigger in this sport, they're going to throw more on your shoulders. And to me, that's life.
Mm-hmm.
Like the load that I'm carrying to day to day,
Mm-hmm. Way more than 20 years ago, 10 years ago.
would have crushed me
Right.
in my 30s, in my 20s, in my late teens. I couldn't even fathom I'd be the man I am today, right? But it's been like one extra thing at a time. Not too much.
Sure.
You take on too much and it'll break you. But you
Slowly
keep
developing.
building that. And so for the fighters, I'm trying to get them to understand, like, you run your own camp. You're responsible for you. I don't care if you don't show up. That's on you. You can't blame losses and stuff on other people, you know? So I put a lot of responsibility back on the fighters that I work with because it's important for them to understand that they're driving their own ship and we're all a part of it, right? And we're all there to help, but the responsibility's on you.
Yeah.
And that builds that mentality, because as you get to become the main event in the UFC, your obligations are far more than the lowest guy on the card, right? And that's just kind of the translation, and that's true in life. When you have kids, when you have responsibilities,
So true.
We talked about building, you know, getting assets that are making you money, but those assets break down and they take
Need
attention.
a new AC unit, and you know,
you're gonna get a call at 2 a.m. And
House
you got to
is flooding, yeah.
you got to handle all these things.
right,
That you're getting money every month, doesn't mean that work doesn't come with it.
right.
And those responsibilities don't just go away, and they're not gonna go away. So it's like I've learned to keep walking. You know, to me, this is like we're climbing a mountain, and I'm putting things on my shoulders as we go, and I'm just figuring out how much I could take, and I'm priding myself on how much I could take without falling. And if we fall, get up, stack them back on,
Win or learn.
you know, and keep going.
Right.
You know?
As a business guy, I can relate to that because it's like things that anytime I get frustrated about something or start having a little pity party or something, you know, I'm dealing with manufacturers and government licensing's taken so long and negotiating with Vayner Sports and, you know, dealing with this guy who's not calling me back and just, you know, all that kind of stuff. And you start getting frustrated. And I literally think to myself, Elon Musk would laugh at me. You know, Elon Musk would like, stop being a bitch. Like, what are you complaining about?
Yeah.
He's running Tesla, Starlink, you know, the Boring Company. He's putting rocket ships into space. You know, Tesla's running off the road, you know, people dying. He's got to, like, when I think about that, it's like my problems are so unbelievably like laughable to somebody like that. So it's that old saying, Jim Rohn, it's don't wish it were easier, wish you were better.
Yeah.
You
And I always have to remind myself of that. Cause like I said, growing up with kind of the victim mentality, that's an easy one. Oh, why me? It's like, be proud that it's you and get better, you know? But yeah, I definitely agree with that.
There's another saying too. It's, you know, if we went back 10 years, we would love to have these problems. We would love to be in a position to where you have your own agency, you have rental properties, you have a family. Like you would love to be in this position and have those issues, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just perspective a lot of times. You know, it's just sometimes taking that deep breath and getting that right perspective so we're not, you know, thinking about it incorrectly.
And going back to what we were talking about way earlier about schooling and what I learned, when I was in high school, I remember everyone was worried about going to college and what they were going to study and what they wanted to be. And nobody wanted to make the wrong choice. And I remember that. And then, so now when I go back to schools and I talk to kids and I encourage them, like, man, it's so crazy that knowledge is power, and how much knowledge you can accumulate is just, it's going to help you in life. And this sport, I like to use this sport all the time. When I talk to kids and I'm like, what do you think I have to accumulate? What kind of knowledge I need to accumulate to become successful at what I do? And people are like, oh, it's fighting. It's easy. It's like, man, you have to learn about how to diet, how to work out. I know I can have like fluent conversations with doctors and physical therapists because I know so much about the human body and injuries.
Each martial art.
Right.
Press, media.
Yeah, media training,
negotiating.
Social media, negotiating, contracts, taxes. You know, you pay different taxes in different states and different countries. Like, I have conversations with my wealth management guy at Morgan Stanley and about stocks because I have to understand what I'm talking about or I'm going to get taken advantage of.
Right.
You know, like the amount of things that I've had to learn is crazy. And it's like in school, you're so worried about, oh, I'm not going to use this. And just the more you learn, the better.
Right.
Because I tell people all the time, if you and somebody else are going for the same job and the boss happens to like golf or happens to be a mountain climber and you happen to have the same knowledge, he'll probably hire you over the other person.
It's true. Yeah.
It's just
relatable.
Yeah. Random stuff. If you learn about all kinds of stuff, it's just going to make you more of an asset.
Yeah. Well-rounded for sure. I'm going to have to jump ahead, head cover. You're going to have a 6-hour podcast if I ask all this stuff. Just listening to some previous podcasts, what are some of the things that you try to bring as a coach and a mentor that maybe some of your coaches missed over the years? Obviously, the sport is evolving. People are getting better tactics. I mean, I'm thinking of a couple things in particular, but at the end of the day, like, I'll just talk about, you used to have the Shark Tank where they'd bring in fresh killers every round and just basically beat you up.
I hate that.
And you hate that. And when I heard you talk about that, it makes perfect sense. Why would you do that? It's not helping with confidence necessarily.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about, are there other things like that you think, hopefully we're not pissing anybody off talking about this stuff, but
it's something a perspective I talk about a lot because I'm very passionate about it. I almost had my career ended a couple times in the gym just from bad training partners.
Yeah.
And just
we're going to get into etiquette.
Yeah. And then coaches not really looking out for people. I understand that this is a sport where you got to be tough, and the people that aren't tough aren't going to last. So you don't really have to push that. Building skills and building confidence, I think, is the most underrated thing. I'd say building confidence. And so when I have sparring set up, I'm putting you in a position to succeed so that you're very comfortable with the game plan and your skills feel on. Knowing that the fight is not going to be easy, but I want you to know what it feels like when things are going smooth and what it should feel like when you're doing all the things right. Now, things aren't always going to go the way you want them to. And so we do a lot of long rounds, slowed down, so we can figure out, oh, man, I'm really tired. I'm hitting a wall. What do I do? Well, calling timeout isn't an option.
Right.
The timer's not going to go off because I don't have a timer in my gym. And how do I get out of this? Where are your positions of rest? And when I say rest, I mean active recovery.
Sure.
You're moving, but you're not engaging. And you can engage to stall, to rest for a second, land a couple, move around. Like there's a combo of things that you can do to regain.
Buy yourself a little time.
And then re-attack,
Yeah.
you know? So I believe I'm teaching guys that rather than being tough. Because if you got 5 fights in MMA, you already passed the test.
If
The
you're still
tough
coming,
ones,
yeah.
Yeah, the tough ones didn't make it, you
Yeah.
know, or the not tough ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm big on that. I think there's a lot of coaches out there that just try to make guys tough and they're ruining fighters. There's a lot of, like I was just talking about earlier. Take somebody who's a good kickboxer or a good D1 wrestler and you get them into MMA, they have a less than 50% chance of making it, becoming good, because once they start sparring, they're so good in one aspect and so bad in another aspect that they don't have the right skills. So if that D1 guy goes against one of my fighters who's well-rounded, they know they're going to get tooled in the wrestling aspect of it. And so they're going to go a little bit harder on the striking to make up for it, to try to make it competitive. And the D1 wrestler is going to take all these unnecessary shots, not have the confidence to work his basics because he knows he needs to get the takedown to survive.
Right.
And so he's not going to spend the time honing his skills because out of fear. He needs somebody that's going to, hey, don't worry. If you take me down, I'm not worried. The egos get in the way instantly. And that's something people just don't understand. You're not going to develop that guy if you let him get beat up. He needs to have basic striking, playing, having fun, so that his striking can get up to the level of his wrestling, which is going to take a while.
Right.
But if you start with fear, now he's always going to be like this and shoot. Right? And now you're putting a mental block that is going to be hard to unlearn later.
It makes sense.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there, people just don't think like that. And they just think, oh, throw him in there, sink or swim. And what happens is that guy doesn't develop and you're like, what a waste. That guy had so much potential. He just couldn't do it.
Yeah, not realizing it was maybe your approach on how you were developing that fighter.
And that's how prospects are getting ruined.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm just going to say a few things, and I want to say, I'm going to say a word, and you mind just whatever comes to mind. You ready? We're going to have a little fun.
Right.
Start winding down here. Intuition.
In what way?
Well, honestly, I had Melvin Gillard sparring here, but you said you had an intuition that, this wasn't going to be a good fit. So intuition with fighting in general, and you could say pass. I mean, it's not.
No, trusting your instincts is very key.
Yeah.
If you have a bad feeling, I'd say most guys that get hurt in training always say, I knew I shouldn't have done that. I knew I shouldn't have done that extra round. And it's usually a coach trying to push you that extra little bit, not trying to be a jerk or hurt you, but just trying to push you to your limit.
Sure.
And sometimes, especially when you're going around doing strength training and you got other coaches, it's hard to get all the coaches on the same page, knowing how much. My coach, Chad Juggernaut, shout out to Coach Chad. The first thing he asks us before every workout, how do you feel? What'd you do today? What'd you do yesterday? I love that.
Yeah, I like that.
And he's a power lifter originally, which I wouldn't have guessed that he cares about how I feel.
Right.
But if I'm like, man, I'm struggling. Okay, let's get through this workout. Take your time. Don't push too heavy. Make adjustments.
I think that's awesome.
I feel great. Let's get after it. Okay, we're gonna go extra hard today.
Yeah.
Just that is important. But yeah, intuition. You gotta trust your instincts, and then you gotta trust the people around you, and make sure the people around you know how to push you the right way, because everybody's different.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in intuition. I'm a big believer in energy. Like I believe, without going, we'll go down a rabbit hole, we do this, but like even our heart has, you can measure the energy field around your heart. And it's, the more we learn about science, there's a field that comes out of us that we don't even know where it stops. And I'm a big believer in intuition when it comes to, if you're getting a gut about things, like you hear this, someone's walking down the street and they feel like someone's following them, or they feel like, I tell everybody, listen to your gut. You know, just do whatever you got to do. Just assume it's the case. What's going to happen? What's the worst thing that happen? You look stupid. Who cares? What's the worst thing that happens if you don't listen to your gut?
Yeah.
You know, I think that gut feeling is there for a reason. So another thing you said, the next word I had here was training etiquette, because I love your training etiquette videos. They're even from someone who's never going to fight, never going to train, unless it has to do with cheesecake. I love the videos to anyway, I'll just shut up and let you talk. Training etiquette, what comes to mind?
Something I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
Once again, my career almost got
The orbital
cut short.
and the jaw.
And so what I've learned is that when you go to another gym, everyone has their own set of rules. And it used to be the wild, wild west. Everyone's trying to knock you out.
Right.
Or what the usual go-to is, you go to somebody's gym, they'll throw like the tough kids at you, but not the best ones, and they'll wait till you get tired, and then they'll throw the best guys to clean it up and show you like how good they are. Everyone's trying to like prove that they're legit, right? And that just, a lot of people get hurt that way. A lot of people won't come back. I tell when new guys come in, the number one rule is don't hurt that guy. Make sure that he goes right. You know, like I want to make sure that we're not trying to prove a point to you that we're dominant. I'm trying to make you feel welcome,
Right.
and that we like to work, and we can push it harder when we establish a relationship where I trust you.
Right.
Because that's the thing, is if I don't trust my training partner, then I'm not gonna lean on you to give me the rounds to make all this money that I'm gonna make, right? Because the likelihood that you're going to hurt me and I'm going to have to pull out of this is high.
Right.
And you have no invested interest in me staying in it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I have no contract with you stating that you're going to cover my hospital bill or my show money or anything. So it's, to me, trust is huge. I need to trust the person that I'm training with.
Right.
I don't like going with people that I don't really know.
Yeah. And that's from good experience.
Yeah.
Just a couple more words here. Burnout.
Burnout. I really don't get burnout on training that often. I think the cool thing about MMA is that I could focus on cardio, I could focus on skills, I can focus on jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, judo, karate. Like you can switch it up. And that's the beautiful thing. You can maintain what you're good at and then always go down these little side paths to get better at your overall game. Mm-hmm. And so that really helps me from getting burnout. I think the only time I really get burnout is by giving too much to fans. Like when I have like long conversations, or I'm trying to like be up and be the guy that they're hoping I would be.
Yeah.
When they meet me.
A little exhausting.
Yeah, because I'm more introverted.
Yeah.
I'll have times where I kind of go inward and I just listen to like a podcast or a audio book or a talk or something where I'm like in a rebuilding stage mentally.
Yeah.
And I go on those every so often. I think it's important to be able to, update.
Recharge.
Yeah, update the car.
Yeah, that's actually, being in sales all my life, I have that gear to be extroverted, but I'm naturally introverted. So I recovered sitting in my pool, smoking a cigar, the entire day to myself. Like I'm happy camper, but that's how I recharge.
Yeah.
And I do think it's important to know yourself. Some people recharge in the crowds.
Yeah.
I'm draining my battery anytime I'm out doing things like that. Last word, critical thinking.
Okay, in what way? you think?
One thing that I heard you talk about recently was I love the fact that you were very open to criticisms from your coach or someone that you were talking to. And at the end of that, you said, hey, I can accept that. I should have done that. I can improve here. Now, let me give you feedback since we're having this type of conversation.
Yeah.
But the critical thinking to me is, when I think about critical thinking, I just think of data. I think making emotionally mature decisions, not being caught up in the fear of the moment, but looking at the data, looking at what I think's best and making a good decision and then owning it for good or bad. That was my decision and I could have done it differently or whatever. But I would just say critical thinking when it comes to maybe approaching your training or having the tough conversation with your coach, maybe where you might push back saying, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Or here's what you said that I loved. The coach was proposing something. You said, okay, why are you having me doing that? And you said, I don't have a problem with my fighters asking me because I'm going to give them the logic behind why we're doing this.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this just to beat you up and beat you down. I'm trying to develop this or develop whatever. So
yeah, I've traveled a bunch and I've seen so many different coaches and I've done so many different types of hard workout in pools, on mountains, and on the beach, like on tracks. Like I've done so many different and I love it all. But there's been times where it was hard, but I was like trying to do what they're asking and they're yelling at me. One comes to mind. We were in Albuquerque. We're diving to the bottom of the pool and they're telling me to hold my breath and then come back up and then go back down. And they were making it difficult. And I don't mind swimming, but
Right.
I'm not like a world-class
Right.
swimmer. My form is not great, but I'll swim.
right.
And I'm down to get a hard workout. But they were telling me, you need to learn how to hold your breath. And I was like, why do I need to learn how to hold my breath? And they're like, in fighting, you need to learn how to hold your breath. And I was like, I fight and you don't. How are you going to tell me? And no, I do not need to know how to hold my breath. I need to learn how to breathe calmly and catch my breath and have it under control, not hold it.
I think that'd be the worst thing you do in a fight is holding your breath.
And so I got annoyed. And then
Yeah.
I was just thinking, this person doesn't know what they're talking about at all. And then I was like, why am I even listening to this person? And then I never trained with that person again. And then it just made me like start watching it from the outside. And then other fighters, big name fighters were like, oh yeah, so-and-so really put us through the ringer. And I was like, they're like, how come you're not training? I'm like, you guys are dumb. And it just made me have this realization, like I need to start questioning the credentials of these people that I'm letting them push me to extremes,
Right.
and I'm willing to go through extremes, but
You just want to know why.
I need to know why. I
Yeah.
need to know that there's a method because there's people out there that have multiple degrees and have worked with some of the best athletes in the world. And then there's other people that just have a crazy idea and they've suckered somebody into doing it. They've suckered one fighter and then other fighters are like, oh, well, they must know what they're talking about. And they
Right.
don't. So it made me realize that I need, if you can't explain to me why in good detail and convince me, then you probably don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And that became like a thing for me. And I'm a true believer. And I'm willing to be pushed by somebody that knows what they're talking about, and I'm willing to push. And if one of my fighters, I don't ever get mad at them for telling me no or telling me I can't do that all the time. Guys, if somebody says, I'm like, hey, I need you to spar today and I need you to perform, and they say, hey, I'm not feeling it. Can I spar on Monday? Let's do it Monday. I just need you to perform. It didn't have to be today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's to me is putting a little bit more effort behind it, and I wish more coaches would do that.
Yeah.
Let the fighters perform when they're ready, because that it's such a big role and it's long term. If you get pushed to perform that day and you don't, and then you go into the fight going,
I didn't perform.
I didn't perform.
Right.
My coach is disappointed. You're going in with doubt.
All those little things that probably pile up over the course of a training camp.
And it's just unnecessary.
Yeah.
Why? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Because I kept thinking about why all my theories came from my own head, that all the years of why on Tuesday I beat up all these guys in the gym, and then on Thursday the same guys tooled me and I felt like an amateur. That makes no sense. Like, how do you explain that?
Mm-hmm.
Fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't rest. You didn't eat right. Like, there's all these things
Variables.
and it's like, why was I going so long having training sessions go up and down, so then I learned how to train with consistency. So I have a more even data backing up how I'm feeling and how I'm performing, as opposed to just chaos.
Yeah.
And go, I think he's ready.
You know, it's so funny. Evan Elder and I had dinner the other night, and he was telling me the same thing when he started training at the PI. I don't know the technical terms, you probably would, but they're measuring your whatever, your heart performance or something.
VO2 max?
That might be it. And he's like, he would be going to 300, and they're like, but then you're coming in to train the next day, and that's why you're having a shitty training day, and you're exhausted that next day because you needed 36 hours because you ran at this level for that long. You needed more time to rest. And so he's been adjusting. He'll go to that 200 range, or if he does push himself too hard, he'll give him a longer rest period. Yeah. And now he's finding a much better, it's probably little things like that.
It's pretty simple. So I use my ring.
Okay.
It's the Aura ring.
Okay.
You could use a Whoop, lots of things. This tracks my sleep. It tells me how stressed out I am in my sleep, how well I rested. But I already know. It's weird.
You can feel it.
Because I know what I've
been doing it for so long. Yeah.
And so I'll wake up and I'm like, oh man, that wasn't good. And I'll look and I'm like, oh yeah,
there it is.
7 hours. I need 8 to be recovered. 7 hours with the heart rate spiking tells me that I was stressed in my sleep because I lifted weights and I did sprints. So, when people say I was too tired and I didn't sleep, that's real.
Okay.
You overworked, your body's stressed at night, you don't sleep. So you're going to have crap sleep the next day, don't do anything. Then that night you will have good sleep, then you're recovered.
Then you can push yourself
Then
again.
you can push again.
Okay.
But then I usually use that day as another build up day. And then the next day I go hard. So you really only should be sprinting or doing something extreme twice a week, maybe 3. The other days, so it just, if you have a coach that's running you like a racehorse 5 days a week, you're never recovering.
Yeah.
So you should be doing this when you're training for a fight.
And that, my friends, is why you get a OG coach like Cub Swanson to train you. A couple fun things here to wrap things up, Cub. Thank you again for your time. Favorite movie in your top 5?
Man, if I'm going to say Nacho Libre, definitely. Step Brothers.
That'll work. That's 2.
But
Step Brothers is
I'm going to
hilarious.
have to go like movies that really like molded me as a kid with me and my brothers. Probably like Bloodsport, Top Gun. What else is a good one? Rad.
Okay. Well, that's 5. We're 5 out of 5 there.
Okay.
Good job. So just one in the top 5. If you had to go out and throw out some music in your vehicle driving around today, what's one of your top 5 probably going to be? Band.
DMX. Helped mold Killer Cub.
Okay.
That one was a huge one for me. First guy to really talk about the struggles of, like growing up religious and then having these like anger and dark thoughts and trying to like figure out what was going on in you. And that to me was a big one. Knowing I wasn't alone in that.
You just cranked up your intensity talking about DMX, like literally, right? I could see the intensity.
Yeah. I mean, it does. Like
Get you fired up.
I learned how to train myself to music and certain songs that I pick. When I pick like a walkout song, I usually pick it earlier in camp, and I train myself to when I hear the song, I go
Flip
to like
switch.
a
dark place.
A dark place.
Yeah.
And and I don't want to hurt you. I know I could turn it on. So that way, by the time I fight and I hear it, it's like, it's easy to get into that headspace. Because when you get a little older and you have kids, it's not so easy to flip that switch. So I had to learn how to do that. But yeah, I like ASAP Rocky and Travis Scott. I kind of like that, kind of like techno wild beat with some crazy lyrics. All the guys know I trained in music because I use music and the beat of music to like set a pace and break the pace. I'm weird when it comes to fighting. I play with depth on people and I play with rhythms. And you know how like when the song changes in the middle of dancing and it takes a second? So I try to do that a lot. I try to set rhythms and break rhythms to mess with my opponents. So music is very big to me, and the pace of the music sets the tone for how we train.
That's awesome. Last question. When you're, let's call it 178, you're lying on your deathbed, what type of legacy do you want to leave behind, and what do you want said about Cub Swanson?
I think I'm going to hear good things. I really try my hardest to give back. I've been given a lot of opportunities in my life, and I've tried to return that. Maybe not to everybody that thought they would get those, but I give to people that give effort. I give to a lot of people that give me max effort, people that I appreciate. And I think I will be very happy because at the beginning of the journey of MMA, when I really sat down and thought of it, because nobody wanted me to do MMA at the time. There was nobody around my neighborhood where I lived. People were trying to talk me out of it.
Yeah.
I just remember my step-grandpa, my stepmom's dad, used to tell me stories of boxing in the Navy, and I was always just loving him. And I don't think he ever won a fight, and he was just a funny guy, and I loved his stories. And I was like, at the very least, I will have some great stories for my grandkids. That was like, all right, I need to pursue this.
That does seem pretty cool to be able to talk about,
Yeah. So when I have grandkids, I'll be
just a pack of Cubs.
I'll have some stories to tell.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking this time today, Cub. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and thank you for sharing everything.
I appreciate you having me on, and I'm very excited about the cigars. Our cigar's coming out. Got the Killer Cub cigar and the Bloodline cigar. You're going to be supporting me and my team. So, yeah, I'm super excited about it. And trust me, when the boys are winning, we're going to be having the Bloodline cigars, lighting them up and celebrating. So
that's it. Well, thank you, and thank you for joining us for another 5 Things podcast. We'll see you next time.